Olá a todos. It's 5 a.m. Shall we? Oh, 5 p.m. Brilliant. I've made a mistake in the first 30 seconds. At least you know it's live, right? You know that I really am here live because I'm here saying silly things. It's 5 p.m., so that means it's time to get started for our student interview. I love doing these. It makes me feel so warm and fuzzy to get to chat to one of my students. So we've already got lots of people here. So please let us know in the chat, in the comments, where you're tuning in from, who you are, why you're learning Portuguese, because we love to hear all of that good stuff. And yeah, I've got another very special interview for you today. I'll just double check and get a thumbs up from my team that everything is streaming nicely live. Awesome. So we can go ahead and get started. So I sit down roughly once a month with one of my students, and it's so much fun. I look forward to it so much because we get to hear about some really amazing progress that one of my students has made towards their Portuguese conversation skills. Okay, living the dream, making friends, having a great time. And I know that's what a lot of you guys want to achieve as well. So it's really, really inspirational to hear this story. We're going to be talking about exactly where my student started, where she's at now, how she got there, because we really want to encourage as many of you guys as possible to start learning Portuguese and really show you that it is possible. It doesn't matter about your age. It doesn't matter how many times you might have tried and failed. It really is going to make such a difference to your life here in Portugal, as my wonderful student Stace is going to show us. And we've got some pros in the chat already. We've got Lily and Scott and Daniel, who are students of ours who are tuning in. We've got people from Michigan, the Azores, Indian Wells, but soon to be Braga. Don from Toronto. Okay, awesome. We've got people from all over the globe who want to hear Stace's story. And I'm not surprised because it's a great one. So if you are tuning in, you probably already know who I am. I'm Liz, and I host the YouTube channel Talk the Streets that teaches practical Portuguese in plain English, but I'm also the creator of the Portuguese Pro program, which is an online course and community that will take you from saying your very first words up to having your first conversations with native speakers, which is how I met Stace, another student I can't wait for you to meet. So let's go ahead and add her to the stream so we can hear her story. Hi, Stace.
Hi, Liz.
Great to see you. Thank you so much for agreeing to join me. I can't wait to share with you, with everybody, your lovely story. So, of course, I know all about you and who you are. But to kick off, would you mind telling us who you are and why you decided to learn Portuguese?
Well, I'm new to Portugal. Just almost retired at the end of 2024. Wanted to move to Europe with my wife and tour around for a bit. And we thought we'd go to Portugal first. So we checked out your YouTube channel to sort of stock up on some basic phrases. Olá, bom dia, the basics. And very quickly upon arriving in Lisboa in January, we decided this was going to be our home. So it became imperative then to learn Portuguese. We couldn't imagine living in a wonderful, warm country like Portugal. And by warm, I mean the people, without trying to meet people where they are in their language. And we couldn't have imagined a better course than yours.
Wonderful. So you fell in love with Portugal. It stole your heart straight away, it seems like. I'm sure lots of people in the comments can relate to that. So tell me what it was like when you first got started learning. I know you found us quite quickly, which is really awesome. But were you daunted by the idea of learning Portuguese? Had you had any language experience? What was it like when you first got started?
I had a little bit of high school French, 4 years of it, and promptly forgot most of it because I never used it. And many, many years have elapsed since then. So yeah, trying to learn a new language was a bit daunting. I would say that the way the course is structured, Liz, and the community of students, my wife Bobby and I felt pretty welcome right off the bat and got a lot of encouragement to just dive in and try it.
Awesome. Yes. Oh, I'm so glad that you found us so quickly. And yeah, lots of people do come at this thinking, wait, I haven't learned a language since high school. How on earth is this going to be possible for me? Which is why I'm so glad everyone's going to hear your story today. If you can relate to any of this, then please let us know in the comments. What is it that you're struggling with in Portuguese at the moment? I'm sure Stace will be able to relate to it. And if you have any questions for her as well, we'll be answering questions at the end of this chat, so please put them in the comments. So you did find us quite early on, so we were able to get rid of some of that fear for you to get started. So if you fast forward to today, you went from speaking no Portuguese at all. What are you able to do now on a day-to-day basis, and are you using your Portuguese a lot?
Well, the thing I'm most confident about is reading Portuguese. It's gotten so much easier, even though I'm not all the way through the course yet and don't know all the grammar. I'm able to decipher quite a bit. And incidentally, I notice I'm able to read a little bit of Spanish now as well. I'm pretty confident about my pronunciation. It turns out that all the drills that you've given us, from that first downloadable PDF with the basic tips to your 1-hour online free tutorial, to the first module of the course, which is all pronunciation, really helped me a lot. And the weekly group pronunciation practice, I look forward to that every time. I learn from the very beginners who are just posting for the first time. It's a great reminder to really work on those vowel sounds. But I also get tips on my own little pronunciation biffs or baubles. So speaking in real time, of course, is a bit more challenging, and I'm just beginning to venture into that. It's exciting, and it's a little bit humbling too.
Yes, we're going to hear all about your language exchange partner that you have. That's going to be perfect. But tell me a little bit more about, on a day-to-day basis in Portugal, maybe it's going to the coffee shop or to the pharmacy or to the supermarket. Where are some of the occasions where you find that you're actually learning this, and not only are you having the confidence to use it, people are receiving it well as well?
It's been pretty amazing. I've made a point, and my wife does this too. We try to speak Portuguese everywhere we go. We don't default to English. Even when people answer us in English, we will say that we're learning Portuguese. Estou a aprender português. And somebody in the community taught us a trick to say, adoro Portuguese, so that we let people know we love Portuguese. And so people help. So all those interactions that you mentioned, going to the post office, going to the supermercado, or going to the mercado municipal on the weekends, going to the restaurants. I see my friend Katrina's in the chat. Going to the restaurants, dealing with the people who come to the apartamento to do work. Many of the tradespeople don't speak any English, and so having a little bit of Portuguese is really a godsend. They'll use Google Translate. We'll use Reverso plus the Portuguese we've got, and so far we've been successful at every interaction.
Perfect. You had a cool story about the post office. Tell me a little bit more about
You
that.
For those of you who aren't in Portugal, especially you Americans, it's not quite like the US. I was expecting to find the official name of the Portuguese post office, and there's no such thing. It's a company called CTT, and they have outlets all over the towns. There are 3 or 4 within walking distance of our apartment in Braga, and I usually go to the one by the grocery store. And the woman that I typically interact with there, she's an older woman, not quite as old as I am, and she's a bit dour. You know, she doesn't seem the most friendly. And the most recent time, the first time I went in there, I actually ended up saying I had a package to ship instead of one to receive. So we got a big chuckle out of that. And then when she brought out it was actually 2 packages I was picking up. I said, oh, como Natal, presente. And she cracked up because I was saying, oh, it's like Christmas. I get presents. The most recent time I noticed she had her nameplate. So I asked her if she was Manuela, and she said yes. And so we had a nice little chat about that. And she and her colleague were very complimentary about my Portuguese. They asked how long I'd lived in Braga. I told them just 2.5 months, and they were super sweet about it. And now I'm going to look forward to going back to the CTT.
Right, it makes it all more enjoyable, right? Because everyone talks about the bureaucracy and the things you have to do. Like navigating the postal office can be super stressful. So if you've got this added challenge or this added way to make it fun, I think that's really cool. And it's also nice that you thought she wasn't that friendly, but actually, when you were able to use your Portuguese, that everything changed and she became a lot more animated and welcoming. So that's really good to know.
Yeah. She
So
she said she had tried to learn English, but she was really struggling. And I said something to the effect of, "You can do it." And she said, "No, no, no, I'm lazy." And I said, "Claro que no. I don't think so, you know."
yeah, unfortunately, that is the one thing that will stop somebody with language learning. It's not wanting to put in the work, but you really have, and it's really paying off. So if you've just tuned in, I know lots of people are dropping in and out. So I'm here with my student Stace, who's sharing her experience of learning Portuguese to give you guys the confidence to do the same. She started from absolute zero and has just been telling us about having a laugh in the post office with the clerk, and she's having a great time with her Portuguese. So if that is something that you would like to do and come and learn with us, just go to talkthestreets.com/apply to see if you qualify for an application call. And hopefully you could also come and join us. So if that's sounding good and you want to find out more, then that is what you need to go and do. So on the topic of these kind of like relationships that you're building here, Stace, can you tell us about some of the experiences you've had? I mean, we could go ahead and share some of your photos that you've been kind enough to share with us. Tell us what's going on here.
Oh, Bobby and I left Lisboa in April. We were on a tourist visa, and we returned to the country in June. And my birthday was the 17th of June, and it happens that that's the first day of the festival of São João, and that's a big deal, especially in Porto and Braga. And Bobby and I went out to a restaurant for dinner that night, not really realizing what a big deal this is. And when we walked back across the Praça da República, we were met with this huge crowd, and we got there just in time to do the countdown in Portuguese. Nove, oito, sete. And they lit the lights and lit off all these little tiny hot air balloons and fireworks and singing and dancing. It was quite the welcome to Braga.
Awesome. It looks so much fun. And then who is this very smiley guy? Tell us
Oh,
more about him.
this is the wonderful José Labato. José is from Brazil, and he used to live in my apartment. So one day he rang the intercom, and I went downstairs to meet him. He explained in English, not the best English, but in English, that he'd lived there. And he asked, "Hey, if you get any of my mail, would you be comfortable just sending me a text rather than calling the landlord and going around that way?" And I said, "Absolutely." And then I took a little bit of a chance because his English was not good. It's certainly better than my Portuguese, but it wasn't good. I asked him, "Are you working on your English?" And he said, "All the time." And I said, "How would you feel about meeting up once in a while? You could help me maybe with my Portuguese, and I'd be happy to help you with your English." Not only was he amenable to that, he said, "Tell you what, each time we meet, let's try a different coffee shop in Braga so that we can sample all the different coffees that the city has to offer." And we've met, I think, 3 times now, and we're just having a ball.
That's brilliant. So for anybody who doesn't know, this is something I really, really encourage my students to do, to find what we call a language learning partner. So you can get halfway through the course and you can have a good knowledge of the way the language works, the pronunciation, the present tense, basically all the building blocks you need to hold a conversation. But the trickiest thing is to actually put that into practice. And the only way to do it is by finding a language partner and doing regular practice. So Stace reached the point where it was like, hey, Stace, you are ready to do conversation practice now. Sometimes I have to give people a bit of encouragement, but you were pretty up for it. That was, you're always very willing to give things a go. So I'm always thrilled when my students reach this stage because it's like they're sort of riding a bike with the training wheels on, and even that in itself can be very scary. So I mean, you only joined us in February, right, Stace? And in that time you've managed to get to this point where you're ready to practice your conversation. Did you imagine
Yeah,
that far in that time?
I really didn't, and I have a long way to go. I don't want to oversell it in terms of my progress here, um, but yeah, I'm quite surprised at how much Bobby and I have been able to navigate daily life in Portuguese, in Portugal, and am just constantly touched by the warmth and genuine friendliness of the people we meet. It's really wonderful. I think about being in the States and how often I've been impatient with people who don't speak English well, and I've seen other Americans, it's the same thing. And I'm realizing now how hard people are working. And so to be met with that kind of friendliness and sometimes almost surprise and delight from people, it's really touching.
I love that. And I'm so glad that that's the experience that you're having, because I know that on the flip side, a lot of people feel, too shy or too awkward or too embarrassed. And really by equipping yourself with, pronunciation basics, practical phrases, all of those things, we can start to kind of undo those layers of fear and get to a place where, you're smiling like this over a cup of coffee. And what about this picture?
This is Katrina Galloway and me. Katrina and her husband have just returned back to Scotland from a trip round Portugal. And when she mentioned, we've been practicing the weekly dialogues with each other offline, which has been both helpful and fun. And she mentioned that, oh yeah, I'm coming to Portugal. And I said, oh, you're going to get up north? And she said, yeah. And I said, well, I really think you should come to Braga. It's such a special little city. It's the third largest in Portugal, but there's only about 200,000 people, and it's quite historic and lovely. And she was game for it. And so here we are standing outside the Sé de Braga, Braga's oldest main cathedral. And we just had a cracking good time. A fair
Yeah.
bit of wine was consumed, I will admit.
So have you found the community inside this program as one of the things that helps you actually make progress?
Very much. I mean, you can tell from the chat today just how supportive people are of each other. You see people kind of clapping back to each other and echoing the experience that I've had. When a newbie comes on for the first time and submits their very first weekly pronunciation challenge, you always welcome them. And then the people on that week extend good wishes. And once people do that first submission, they realize, oh, it's not really that scary. And they get a ton of help and support. People share their wins. People have shared some very touching stories about challenges in their lives and been met with such goodwill. I mean, really, it's quite a community, considering that it's pretty much 100% virtual. Katrina's, in my experience here, being the rare and pleasant exception.
Yeah, I'm so glad that's how you feel, because that's definitely what we kind of aim to create. The last picture of you here, tell us about it.
This is in the beautiful town of Suaju, which I heard of for the first time from a fellow student, a graduate, a true Portuguese pro, a wonderful guy called Maf. And this is an espigueiro, which is a granary storage site. We would call them silos in the U.S., but it's built up on top of mushroom shaped rocks to keep animals from getting into the grain there. And it turns out former tenants of our apartment have made contact with us as well. They're expats from the States, been in Braga a couple of years, and they took us out for a little jaunt one Saturday, and we went up to Suajo and did some touring around and just had a beautiful time there.
It's so wonderful to see these adventures that you're having, right?
Yeah.
It's not just about, sitting in a coffee shop and watching the world go by, getting out there, meeting people, having these experiences. It's so impressive, Stace. So something that we do obviously have to do is hear a clip of your Portuguese. So again, those of you who might not know, we do weekly sessions inside the community, and one of those is a pronunciation workshop. So people do submissions, and then we will correct them, and it's a really kind of great way for people to get feedback. So you did a lovely piece about your Saturday in Portugal and all of the things that you're able to do in Portuguese. So let's take a listen to that.
É sábado. Eu e a minha esposa vamos à padaria, onde cumprimentamos a proprietária, uma artista de Massamai, e a sua filha. Compramos pedaço de pão e 2 rolinhos de canela. Deliciosos! Depois, vamos ao mercado municipal para comprar as nossas frutas, legumes e flores de semana. Falamos com muitas pessoas e praticamos muito português. Mais tarde, saímos do elevador do nosso edifício e encontramos uma família de 3 pessoas. A minha esposa diz: somos vizinhos. E temos uma pequena conversa e trocamos números de telefone. Quase tudo foi em português. E quase toda a gente nos ensinou algo. Um dia comum e um dia muito bom.
So for those of you who don't know, that was really excellent and really not something you would think that somebody who's only been in Portugal a couple of months would be able to do. How do you feel listening to that, Stace?
Well, I hear the little mistakes, but I've had also the benefit of having your colleague Eduardo's corrections on there. And of course, in those days, I had only the present tense, so it's very informal language. But it really was astonishing. I posted it in the wins section of the Circle community that we have in the course. And said, this is, it's kind of no big deal. It's just a typical Saturday, but it was a really big deal because Bobby and I were able to go out and have all of these interactions in Portuguese. And we're realizing, wow, that it's really happening. We're really living the life in Braga as expats who aren't isolated into a bubble only of English speakers. And Liz, we're just super grateful to you and the community for helping us get there.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear it. So if you do have questions, anybody who is watching, if you've got questions for Stace, you would like to know more about how she's been studying and any tips that she might have for you, please drop those in the chat or the comments so that we can ask her some of those. If you are just joining us, this is Stace. She's my wonderful student who's gone from zero Portuguese to being able to navigate daily situations with ease. So if that's something that you would like to do as well, just go to talkthestreets.com/apply to see if you qualify for an application call. We would love to have more people with us inside the program. It's a fun place to be, as we've been saying. So that's what we would love to ask you next. What advice would you have for somebody who's just getting started? Because they must think, well, that's all right, it's all right for Stace, she can do it. I couldn't possibly do it because of X, Y, and Z. We all have these reasons in our head as to why it won't work for us, why we're just never going to be able to learn Portuguese. What would you say to somebody in that position who's watching this, wishing they could do the same that you've done?
Well, I'm going to take a page from your playbook, Liz, and also steal a little bit from the folks at Nike and say, just do it. Liz says, that I was pretty good about jumping in, but really you had to nudge me quite a bit. I remember when you said during one of the weekly sessions, hey, have you got a language partner? I was like, oh my God, I don't know any of the verbs yet. I'm just working on the pronunciation. And you said, hey, really think about it. You can do it. And that stuck with me. And then I watched your video about how we procrastinate and how the underlying that is just a drive to be perfect. And that's really something I struggle with. And I appreciate the support to let go of the need to be perfect and just do it. And so that's what I'd like to suggest to everybody else. Just have a go. You'll find a wonderful amount of support from your fellow students and, of course, from Liz and her team. And I think you'll find that the Portuguese speakers you interact with almost exclusively will be supportive and helpful, if not downright delighted to hear their own beautiful tongue spoken.
Well, that's definitely some good motivation. I always think about a diagram that I used to draw, or I'd seen it online, and it says, you've got your comfort zone here, this kind of circle, and then where the magic happens is kind of like here. So it's always like we need to be just outside of our comfort zone. And I say this, guys, to you a lot because everyone loves the pronunciation workshop. Everybody comes week after week, and we have a great time there. But that's the comfortable part, right? Where you're just reading somebody else's words, getting corrected on your Portuguese pronunciation. And I often say to people, where are you in the course? Have you started speaking practice? How are we going to push you a little bit forwards now? Because, you know, that is really where the magic happens, when you're feeling a little bit more uncomfortable. So that's really great advice from you. We have got a few questions coming in, so please write those in the chat if you've got questions to ask Stace. I was just going to add one up here from Jackie, who is asking, what is Stace's weekly timetable for learning? Do you have, like, what does your typical week look like if you're studying, Stace?
It's a bit spotty, Jackie. I would say in a typical week, I might spend about 5 hours working with the course material. Not all at once, obviously, but an hour here, 45 minutes there. Plus, I do try to attend one of the weekly pronunciation workshops. That's for an hour. And then there's a Q&A, and I'll often be on for the question and answer session. So in total, I would say maybe 6 or 7 hours a week, but it's spread out. It's not every day. Right now, for example, I'm in Ireland. I was on a yoga retreat, and I haven't done anything with my Portuguese practice. I spoke more Portuguese today, greeting Liz, than I have in a week.
Well, that's also a really good thing to note, because, you know, some people go and do these courses that are very intense, and it's 6 hours a day for 5 days a week. And I think that just can kind of overload your brain, actually. So one of the pieces of advice that I often give is to say little and often is actually going to stick in your brain a lot more than trying to, like, overwhelm your brain. And 4 to 5 hours a week, again, is what I say is a really good pace to be going at, to actually make sure that you're going to be making consistent progress. So, you know, I wholeheartedly agree with that response in terms of, on a weekly basis, how much should you be doing, what could you be doing to bring your Portuguese conversation skills up to where Stace's are. So another question we had here from Blessing, asking for more information on the weekly challenge. So for those of you who don't know, inside the Portuguese Pro program, we do have 3 live sessions a week. 2 of those are pronunciation workshops, where we give individual feedback to people, just like Stace, on something they've written or something that they are reading from the course. We also have a Q&A session where we'll go through everybody's questions, give feedback to people, and we also do a weekly challenge at the end of that, and we rotate it between pronunciation, reading, writing, and listening. Listening is the hardest one, because we really want to make sure that we're hitting all of those points of the language, because we need to kind of train different parts of our brain. So by making sure that we hit each of those every month, really, because it's 4 different things that we do. That's just another way that we have decided to kind of give our students that little extra push, that little extra thing to be working on each week. So I would say, for any of you guys that are at home, maybe studying by yourself at this time, just make sure that you're not just reading or you're not just listening. And the hardest one, of course, is to practice is the pronunciation, the speaking. Make sure that you are doing each of those throughout your practice, so that you can improve your skills in all of those areas, because they're all going to become important when you do get to Portugal. So we're running out of time here, but I have to ask the last question, Stace. Would you recommend the Portuguese Pro program?
Of course I would. It's really been a lifesaver, and it's just been so much fun. Yeah. I shared with Liz privately that I'm a retired instructional designer and facilitator, and I know a good course when I see one. The program is excellently constructed. Just every element of it is so well done. So really, if you've got the slightest doubt, please apply and have a call with these folks. I think you'll be delighted.
Wonderful. Well, I'm certainly delighted with your progress, Stace. And, you know, part of it is down to us, but a huge, huge, huge part of it is down to you just doing it. As you say, that's been the motto you've been keeping in your head. To see the determination that you've had and the drive that you've had to get better every week has been really awesome to watch. So you've really been a model star student. Couldn't be prouder of you. And I hope you continue to have a brilliant time in Braga. But we will say tchauzinho e obrigada. Até a próxima. We actually have a live session starting now in 2 minutes, so I may see you over there. But thank you so much for joining us. It's been really helpful for lots of people. I've seen the chat blowing up with loads of comments, so thank you so much for sharing it with us.
A pleasure. Bye, everybody.
Ciao, everyone. Bye-bye.